Welcome to Evolution of Self with me, Britannia. Hello. So I'm going to be talking about something that I think I've spoken about quite recently, but I had a conversation with someone a couple of days ago and I thought that I'd share it again because I had another insight that I thought might make it a little clearer for someone to understand. So what I'm talking about is how we respond to what we think other people think of us. And we do this in all sorts of different situations. So recently I was at a family gathering, and even though I'm aware of what I'm about to share with you, it's still very hard to always remember it and remember to be who you really want to be. So in this family gathering, I assume that certain people see me in a certain light. And because of the way I assume that they think I am, and it's my assumption, it's not necessarily the truth, I then respond in a certain way. I feel myself pull back, I sometimes get more defensive, and I'm not true to who I see myself as. I'm not true to how I am the majority of the time, because I'm responding to an assumption of what someone else thinks of me. And this happens in all sorts of different scenarios. So for me, the example I've given is to do with my family, but it can be in a work situation as well. You might assume that people see you as, and I'm just pulling things out the air here, less educated, less experienced. You might think that they see you as more experienced. And all these assumptions change who we are when we interact with people. Another thing that we might assume is how people respond to what sex we are, whether we're male or female. If we're in a group, if you're a female and you're a group of men, you might assume that they think certain things of you because of the fact you're female. Or if you're a man in a group of women, you might assume that they see you in a certain way. And this might change the behaviour or the way you behave in that situation. The same is true of race and other sexual leanings and ideologies and background and society that you grew up in. We don't truly know what someone thinks about us, but we assume to know what they think about us. And these assumptions cause us to change and behave in a different way. I lived overseas for many, many years, and I was in the minority as a white person in a predominantly African culture. And although a lot of the time I felt very relaxed and very much myself, there were certain situations where I felt slightly uncomfortable, like I didn't really belong, like I was a bit of an outsider. And looking back on it, I can see that I changed who I was in those moments. And although it's strange to see it as a white person in a predominantly black environment, because normally, especially in the UK, it's the other way around, but the truth is still the same. Whatever your race is, if you are in a different situation where the people you're with are of an opposite race or a different race to you, and you feel that you're being judged or that you're being seen as different, it might change who you are in that moment. And the reason I'm sharing this is because we're responding to a belief or a thought about something that isn't the truth. Because we don't truly know all the time what other people think of us and what their judgments are of us. And yet we allow it to change who we're being. And quite often, when we do that, we end up being the thing that we assume the person thinks of us. And that's not always a good thing. And the reason I'm sharing this is when you become aware of it, and when you notice that you are responding to a belief of what someone else thinks of you, you can pause and stop for a moment and ask yourself, there's two things that I've been thinking about that you could ask yourself. Firstly, you could ask yourself, if I didn't believe this, who would I be? And really explore that. Would you be more confident? Would you be more relaxed? Would you be more open? Would you be more joyful? What is it that you would be if you didn't believe what you think you believe about the people thinking what they think they're thinking about you, if that makes any sense at all? The second way to handle something like that when you're aware of it is to ask yourself, who do you want to be in that situation? Do you want to be more confident? Do you want to be more of yourself, whatever you see or want to be in that space? And when you do that, you can choose to step into being who you choose to be rather than reacting to the assumption of what you think other people think of you. Now, it kind of gets a bit convoluted, so I hope you've managed to keep up with my weird explanations here. But that's really what I want to share with you, that there are so many of these situations where we make these assumptions and react in response to these assumptions to become somebody who we most likely don't really see ourselves as or even want to be. And when you become aware of that, you can stop and pause and create space to be who you want to be, either who you see yourself as or who you want to create yourself as. And that means that you have the choice to be whoever you want to be. And it's quite an empowering space to be in. So that's really why I wanted to share it with you. As usual, there's loads of stuff in the show notes below. There's links to my online courses, to one of my free courses called The Happiness Boost, which is a 7-day free course on boosting your happiness. There's also links to my website where you can connect with me if you're interested in coaching or team coaching, and links to my social media. As always, if you have any questions, please drop me a message, share a note with me on one of my social media platforms, because I'd love to interact and chat, and I learn as much from those interactions as you do. Have a fabulous week. So much love from me to you. Bye-bye.